Hey, this is gonna be a fun one. I wanted to get a little more nerdy because I'm trying to meet a lot of entrepreneurs in the AI space and understand what the heck is going on in AI. And I saw Marvelism on my friend Jason Calacanis's podcast, and that caught my eye. And venture capitalist said, I got to see what you're doing because you're doing some cool stuff. So let's talk about Marvelism today. Who are you?
Hey, yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, it's great podcast. So I'm Ulric. I'm one of the co-founders of Marbelism. So essentially, it's a platform for developers where you can generate any software from a single prompt.
Yeah.
And before Marbelism, I was running Vauban.io, which was a platform to launch investment funds,
Yeah.
such as like angel syndicate or like VC funds. We got acquired by Carta in summer 2022, and and yeah, basically we stay. We spend some quality time at Carta, and then with my co-founder, we decided to launch another startup. So Marbelism.
Yeah, my friend Deedy, who's a venture capitalist at Menlo Ventures, was tweeting about you and said, "I just saw the coolest thing. You talk to it and it writes code, and it's like and it writes projects, and it's like whoa!" And he was real excited about it. So congrats on getting the that
It's
kind
good.
of
I mean, he didn't mention the name of the company in the tweet, and the tweet did really well, like 1 million impression.
yeah.
And it was funny to see people like tagging Marbelism, and I was like, oh my god, we have some kind of brand awareness, at least like a start of brand awareness. So it was
Yeah,
yeah.
that's how it's funny. You're right. He didn't even use your name, and I had to DM him. I'm like, "What? Who are you talking about? I want to see him." But that, congrats on you because that's the goal for an entrepreneur is to get everybody excited when they see your product, right? And so tell me a little bit about what it does because why is it so magical? Why have you gotten so many people like of this note so excited? And why you? Why not Devin? Why not Google? Why not what is it that what's your secret sauce here that lets programmers sit down and just start talking to it and well, maybe we should get a demo so that we understand
Yeah, we can do
what
a
the heck
demo,
this
but
is.
maybe I should start by talking why we created Marbelism, and then extend a bit on the secret sauce. But essentially, we are building the dream product we would have wished to have when we started all of our software project in the past. Like, I learned how to code when I was 12, and so I created maybe 20, 30 different like mobile application or website or everything. And basically, when you launch a software, it's always the same thing, right? Like, you have your front end, you have your back end, you have your authentication, you have a module to generate PDF. Like, you have plenty of different modules, and it's always the same thing. And so with Serial, my co-founder, when we wanted to launch another startup, we had this long list of ideas that we wanted to do, right? And first, what we did was to build an engine to quickly launch all of these ideas, right? Because we had like ton of ideas, and so we wanted to launch all of them. And then we spent some time like coding this engine, and we were like, oh, actually, that could be the idea, right? Like, that we could make an engine so it's very easy to launch an idea in just a day. And so essentially, why it's working so well is that we don't use AI to generate everything. And
Hmm.
what's counterintuitive is that, for example, you don't want the AI to generate your authentication or your Stripe payment integration or your permission level access, because these are critical module of an application. And if the AI makes just the tiniest mistake, then you have like a big security flaw, or your Stripe payment doesn't work and you can't take payment anymore. So essentially, it's like pre-made module that the AI is going to customize and integrate into the final application so that we can guarantee that the application is secure, it's stable, and it's customized, of course, as well for the um, use case. So that's kind of the secret sauce. It's like, it's counterintuitive, right? Like, you want to use AI for everything, but sometimes you need to pick, right, what the AI is good at to use it for this particular use case.
Yeah. Well, that's brilliant. What let's go back up to 100,000 feet. What are you seeing happen in AI right now? What are you expecting to see happen? And how is this whole market? Because there's like, I have I have lists on X.com of 4,400 AI companies, and I think 600 of them are developer tools. So that there's a lot of competition to get developers to try a new tool, new thing from 600 companies. It's crazy what how much competition there is. So maybe go up to 100,000 feet, and then I'd like to get a demo of what this is because people, like I said, people I trust are real excited about you because when they get the demo, they're like, "Wow!"
I mean, so first, like personally, what I'm the most excited about in AI is speed. Like if we can get like a 10x, faster model, like what Grok is doing, right? Like on Llama 3, where
Yeah,
it's like 200, 300 token per
and
second.
and you're
So
talking
like
about
that
Grok with a Q, which made their own
is a
AI
clue. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
inferencing
always
chip that
confuse between
runs.
the two.
Yeah, it runs the model from Meta very, very fast, right?
Correct. Yeah. So their only focus, I guess, right, is on speed. Like they can make a model like 10 times faster than the standard because they develop their own chips. And I think this could really change all the AI ecosystem. Like for example, for Marblism, like right now, when you type your prompt, it's going to take like a minute or two to make the change on the code base. And so it's a bit annoying, right? Like if it's a tiny change, you may do it as yourself as well and go in the code and make your change. But if it takes 1 second or 2 seconds, then it becomes really magical and it's really important. So this speed for me is what I'm the most excited about in for the near future, like in the next 6 months. Then on your question around like the coding space, yeah, there are like a lot of different tools. It was really funny as well to pitch VCs, like when we were fundraising, because they were essentially, every kind of startup, like dev tool startup in AI, would pitch their approach, and they would like, oh, we do this, and it's a better approach because we're going to do this, etc. And so the VCs are a bit lost, right? Because they don't know what's the best approach by definition. So they just need to make a bet, to place a bet on something and hope for the best. So it's very funny, right? Because even in terms of user experience, like you can see a lot of different user experience being developed, right? Like maybe people don't like the chatbot so much and they want maybe a graphical interface. Or so it's really fascinating to see what people try to do, especially in code generation, like our space.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You just mentioned user interface. I just was at a user interface, an AI user interface event on Sunday, and I saw dozens of startups that are using AI not to have a chatbot, not to just do text with you, but to do menus, to do outlines, to do graphs, to do all sorts of different user interface um, ways to interface with the user, with the customer, right? How are you seeing that evolve, and how are you trying to innovate on the user interface of how you work with how your system works with a programmer?
Yeah, so it's a really important question for us because essentially the software that we generate, it's like web application with a graphical interface. But for the long-term vision, we want to be able to generate any kind of software. So, for example, if tomorrow or in 5 years, everything is in VR, right? Like all of your software are in VR, you
Yeah,
are not interacting with the computer anymore.
yeah,
Like we should be generating VR software, right? So from the get-go, we architecture and we design every. Oh, here we go.
right. uh, yeah, we all want to be Jarvis, right, and work in a VR headset with infinite screens around us, and being able to talk with our voice and maybe touch things with our hands and move them around, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so for us, it's really important to design everything in Marblism so that we can generate any kind of software, right? And if tomorrow
Mm.
everyone wants VR app, we should be able to generate VR apps. If it's about, I don't know, like voice-based assistants, we should be able to generate this voice-based assistant software. So that's what we had in mind, when we were designing the platform, that it should adapt to whatever technology, there will be in the future. I don't think software is going to disappear, right? It's just going to be different in terms of graphical interface, voice interface, whatever. But there will still be a software, right? Like our softwares in general.
Could we get a demo of it? And
Yeah,
so,
let's do
yeah,
it.
that'd be fun.
Let's do it. Let me share my screen. Um,
There we go.
Okay, here we are. So it takes 10 minutes to generate a project. So I've just generated this one like an hour ago. So that's what I put as a description. A web application for managing project and task, like similar to Asana or Confluence. So as a user, I can create a project, I can create tasks in a project, I can view a list of projects, I can view a list of tasks, and I can update the status and details of a task. And then
To
what
create
it's
this,
doing now.
how did you start, and how are you talking with Marbleism to create this?
So essentially, I can
What kind of
redo the.
skills do I need to have to get to this place, right?
So essentially, Marbleism is for developers in a sense where we can get you to the 90%, towards like the finish line of your product, but you're gonna need like to spend a couple of hours, like tweaking things or like working on the design. So you need to have a bit of technical and coding skills. But our goal is to turn you into like a 10x engineers, right? In a couple hours in a day, you can have like a fully functional product and you can go to market with. Right now, our target is not really like non-technical people for the moment, but it could be, maybe next year if the AI, like works better, etc., and we can do like the full 100%. Like it could be possible.
Underneath what tell me about your developer stack while it's, uh, deploying or, compiling.
Yeah. So essentially, what we created, like the kind of secret sauce, is to have like all these different module, and then to have an orchestration layer that's going to have like a lot of different agents. So you're going to have an agent that's going to work on the product requirements, right? Analyzing your project and defining some user stories associated to it. Then you're going to have an agent that's going to work only on the front end, so on the design on the front end. Then an agent on the back end, so all your data models. For example, here I have a project, so I need a name, I need a description of the project. Then I have a task, etc. And then it creates the backend. And then you're going to have an agent that's going to come and fix the code, because sometimes the AI can make mistakes. So you need an agent able to like fix the code to make sure that the project is always working and compiling. So it's kind of this orchestration of like all of these different agents, right? That's going to work on the code base and output a code base. And you can, if you put your GitHub username here, you can have access to the code. So you are in full control of the code. Like we don't, hide the code, or we don't do, anything with it. Like you are free to
And
to
what
go with the code.
languages do you support? All of them, or, just certain ones like Java or C# or something like that?
Yeah. So it's funny, right? Because in this space, like a lot of people are trying to be like super generalist. So they support like all kind of languages. So you can do Python, you can do Java, etc. On our side, we decided to focus on one single language and one single framework. So it's TypeScript and React and Node.js for the backend. And so we want to go extremely deep in this particular framework, versus doing everything but a bit average. Like, do you see what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yes. You could if you needed a general tool. I, a lot of developers I talk to use like Gemini, and they drop their whole code project into Gemini, Google's Gemini, or Microsoft's Copilot or whatnot. They're general tools. How does this compare to a general tool like a Gemini or a Chat GPT or something like that?
So essentially on ChatGPT, or Gemini, etc. Like you can code, right? Like you can ask to fix something or code a page, but it's going to be very difficult to make it generate like a fully functional application, because in an application, in a code base, you've got 500 different files, right? And so if you ask ChatGPT to generate like all these files like one by one, ChatGPT or Gemini is going to deviate like way too much, right? And so you're not going to end up with like the same function used across like different file, and it's going to be a mess. So with Marbleism, we are able to really output a unified code base that share exactly the same context. So
Got it.
that's the power of it.
Got it.
Yeah,
So yeah,
here we go.
looks
So
like
here
it's
you can
running now, right?
store.
Yeah.
Say it again.
No, it looks like you got it loaded up. So yeah.
Yeah. It took a bit of time, but we got it. So here is our app. So we generated like a this kind of homepage where we can see our our notification on like task updates. Then we have the project page where we can see all of the current project. We generated some dummy data as well, so that the app doesn't look empty
Yeah.
when you arrive on it. So it's already like pre-filled in the database. So let's check here. So we have our project detail. It's about exploring advanced space technologies
So when
with John Doe.
so when you do you call it compiling it, or when you build this, it builds a database for you, it builds the back end, it builds the front end, it builds the whole app for you?
Correct. Yeah, it does the whole app. So here it's like fully working, right? Like if I wanted to add a task, I don't know, I will call it a new task. Hello, to do. And here I can see it has created the task. So there is a backend, there is a database behind, and there is of course like the front end. And then you can see the code as well here. So
Yeah.
you can work on the code while seeing your app in the preview, but you can as well have like a copilot to update the page, right? So for example, here in the home page, I can say change the title to hello name. I can upload a mock-up as well, so that I can take a screenshot of a particular website I like, and it's going to reproduce it. So that's what that's what the kind of V1 looks like, where you have the preview, the copilot, and you can as well go in the code as well to tweak some stuff if you prefer to change it yourself.
That's cool. So if we're building this app and we wanted to add on a new feature or change something or change the layout, how do we go back to the development environment to do all that?
So you can change it right here. Essentially, so for example, I asked to change the title, so it's gonna output like, okay, I can change the title in the homepage. So I'm like, okay, continue, and here it's gonna code and change my code base.
Wow.
Um, or I can do it directly myself in the code. So for example, if I wanted to change the title, you can see it's taking some time, right? Like it takes 2 minutes. So to change the title, maybe I would do it coding myself. But if it was like a bigger feature, it would be quicker to have the copilot doing it. And essentially, why it's like better than the other copilot is because it has all the context of your app. So it knows all your backend, it knows your data model, it knows already everything. So you don't have to put everything in your prompt, right? You can just put like change the title, and it knows already everything about your project.
If if I was working at, I don't know, Hertz Rental Car as a developer building systems, they already have databases and infrastructure. Can I hook this up to my existing databases so that I can start building applications on top of, SQL Server or Oracle Server or whatever database they're using?
So it's a vision. For now, it's not possible. Like we only handle like new projects
Okay.
because we generate everything around. But in the future, yeah, we want to integrate with external code bases or external database. But right now, it's for new software projects. So you are launching your startup and you want to do it in a day versus weeks for your MVP. You can use Marbleism to do that. And so you can see here it so the changes have been implemented,
Yep.
and he has running some checks on the code to test it. Everything is okay. I'm gonna update the code so we can see here the code has been updated, and then it asks me like, okay, should I commit and push the changes to the code base, or do you want to discard? And yeah, so we can yeah, that's how it works.
If something doesn't work right, I assume it works right most of the time, but, how do I debug this? How what's the debugging tool? How, you know, and, can I get into the code and start writing my own code to maybe do something really special or, add on a component that I built in C# sharp or C++ plus plus or something like that? Um, how
So
extensible.
you can go in the code base and change everything about the code base. We're going to just read the code base again and synchronize the context, so you can absolutely like go and code everything yourself. And then we essentially, when you code something, it runs some checks, right? So if you have an error, the AI is able to auto fix itself, or to auto fix like the error you are seeing on your screen. But it's what's really difficult about building an AI startup versus a normal startup, like I did before, is that you always gonna disappoint people. The AI is never gonna work 100% of the time. And that's the most frustrating thing, right? Because you're gonna have some issues, right? Like for example, you go on ChatGPT, and I would prompt like, okay, make me sound more, make this email sound more native, like native American speaker, and it's not going to create a good output, right? And so I'm going to be pissed off about it. And so as an AI company, you always going to disappoint people, and so the goal is to disappoint, yeah, the least people. But it's very yeah, it's very tricky to manage, and it's funny as well, right? Because it's when you develop like a software, the goal is that it's extremely scalable, right? So no matter of the number of people using it, you're always going to have a very deterministic output. And so if it works, it's going to work for a lot of people versus like an old school company with people, and people make mistake. And so you're never sure you're going to satisfy the clients, right? But with AI, what's funny is that we are going back to this kind of things where the AI make mistakes like a human.
Yeah, yeah. They hallucinate. They make things up, right?
Yeah, exactly.
How how as a programmer, this is a new world, right? Where in the C++ plus plus world or the C# sharp world or the Java world, you're very specific about what you want to get in and what you want to get out, right? You're deterministic. With this, you're talking to an LLM sometimes, with English, and then it gives you an answer back, and sometimes it doesn't give you an answer back, or sometimes it gives you a bad answer. How do you how do you handle this mushy, or how do you look at this new world of AI programming? How is
Yeah.
it different than the old world?
So it's definitely more difficult because essentially, let's say you develop an AI startup, an AI solution, and it's working, but like 60 or 70% of the time. You have two options, or you pray that the model is going to get better in the future, and that's a valid option, right? Like
Yeah,
it's pretty valid. It's like Sam Altman, right? Like he gave an interview and he was like, you need to build an AI software, an AI startup, knowing that GPT-5 is going to be 10x what GPT-4 is.
yeah.
So you have this option, and then the second option is to create a lot
You
of
pray that
Gen-
that open AI company fixes the problem and makes it better, and
yeah,
it doesn't hallucinate as much, or gives you a better answer. No, that
that's a
that
viable.
doesn't work.
And you have the second option,
Yeah,
which is essentially to create a lot of to add a lot of checks in your code, like deterministic test, or like to have a processes where you check like every time that this is the right thing that has been output by the LLM. But the problem with this is that you lose a bit of the magic of the LLM, right? Because you need to build so much like deterministic code around it that you can waste a bit your time if in 6 months the model gets better.
yeah.
So essentially, it's your two option, and you need to decide, yeah, which one you want to go for. So for us, it's a bit of a trade-off where we pray a lot every night that it's going to get better, but we add a lot of checks as well around the LLM.
Yeah, that's smart. Um, Give us some idea. What does what does this do really well, and what does it not do well? You know, let's say I'm a corporate programmer. What am I going to be really happy using it for, and what is it not going to work well for?
Yeah. So it works well on like if you want to launch a simple like SaaS software as a service solution, a marketplace or a social network. For now, it doesn't do like mobile application. So it's gonna be available like in the coming month. Um, it doesn't do as well like a desktop software or like a Chrome extension. So our like Marbleism right now, it's good at web application in this specific stack, right, with TypeScript. But of course, the vision is to add more frameworks, add more software platform to be able to do Chrome extension. Why not VR apps if the Apple Vision ends up working well? But actually, I've seen the number of apps decreasing
Yeah.
on Apple Vision. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how it's
The
how it's
apps
going on.
won't yeah, developers follow the consumer, right? If there's a lot of heat on the consumer, then all of a sudden developers are get much more excited by and right now it's sort of flatlined on sales, right? I'll be honest, this thing's too heavy for a consumer, right?
I've
Even
never
if
tested it.
even if they had the $4,000, it's too expensive and too heavy. If Apple fixes those 2 problems, then all of a sudden it's gonna start taking off because everything else about it is amazing, right? When you're working in it, it's like, "Whoa, this is a much better way to work than staring at a 2D screen." But
Do you use it
I
every day or no? Yeah.
most days, yeah, it's heavy to work, and it doesn't integrate well. Like this doesn't work real well with it because I have to talk with a camera. I
Yeah.
shoot a lot of video with it because it's a great camera. So when I go to I'd shot a robot company, and when I was shooting that, I was wearing it, shooting it. So it's good for watching movies for content. You know, watching, right?
Yeah.
Looking at web pages, that kind of thing. AI art in it looks spectacular, right? Stuff like that. Like movies in it looks spectacular, but it's heavy, and so
Mm.
you have to decide: are you going to look at your crappy TV or put this thing on to watch a movie? Watching the movie is better, but it's heavy, and we all know
I see.
lightweight glasses are coming. This to me, this is a
Mm.
developer environment for what is coming, right?
Yeah.
It's to let Apple work with developers to build things for the glasses that are going to come in whenever 1, 2, 3
I mean,
years.
the ultimate dream would be contact lenses, right? Like that could be proper
Yeah,
sci-fi.
that's further out. I mean, you go completely weird and you get a neural link, jacked in on your brain, and that'll be later. We have to go through the glasses phase first.
Mm.
And
Totally.
there's several lightweight glasses being developed by Apple and Meta and others. The the Loomis company comes to my house every year for 4 years now, showing me how the glasses are getting better, and they're getting pretty good. The displays that are in front of your eyes are getting pretty good now. So I expect in the next 18 months we're going to see some really interesting new products from Meta and from Apple. Yeah. But
No, excited
when
to see
that
it. I mean,
comes, you'll be ready, man. You'll have the developer environment, and I'll be like Jarvis programming it up. Hey, build me an app that does this, right? Boom, 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 boom. All right, now,
that would be super cool.
yeah. How much does let's say I had 5 people working with this tool? How do you pay, how much does this cost? What's your business model? How do you make money?
Right. Right now, it's almost free. Essentially, people buy like pack of marbles, um, and essentially for $10 you get 100 marbles and you can generate 2 application or make 10 changes, and when you sign up you get 100 marbles for free. So it's really like you can make an app for like $5 and you have like a fully functional web application, so it's really cheap. um, and yeah, we are just one thing. We are called Marbleism, and we have like all this thing around marble because essentially the pitch or the tagline is that we generate a code base as beautiful and robust as marble. So that's why the name, and that's why all this thing around marble. But yeah, so that's our business model for the moment. I think the space is evolving like super quickly, so it might change. We are
Yeah,
doing hosting at the moment, where you can host your app on our infrastructure. So you need to spend some marbles on that. So yeah, that's the business model all around marbles.
that's awesome. Tell me a little bit about the company. How many people are working with you on this, and how did you get fun? What's your funding? You went through a round of funding because I know VCs were seeing you. That's why I'm talking to you because they
So
got
we did YC. And it was very funny because during the interview, like the group partner asked me, like, why do you need to do YC? Because you're an exited founder, like you could raise, capital in the UK and just go from there. And I was like, yeah, I had a small European success, but now I want to win the World Cup, and YC is a ticket to have the right to play in the World Cup. And so they really like this answer, and so we got accepted.
when I was interviewing
And
at Microsoft, somebody asked me almost the same question. Why are you interviewing at Microsoft? And I gave them this almost the same answer. So that's good. Yeah. You want to play on the
no,
big
why
stage, right?
say it again?
You want to play on the big stage.
Exactly, right. And the big stage is San Francisco, America. So yeah, that's why we went there. But yeah, the YC experience was great. I think what most people don't know about YC, I mean, of course, they know that it's good for investors, right? Like everyone wants to invest in you. You get like great exposure, but you get as well a lot of exposure to potential users.
Yeah.
Like when you launch on YC, you can launch on Hacker News, so that like create a lot of traction. They have 1 million followers on Twitter, so they're gonna retweet your tweets, etc. And it's good traction for your product. So it's really fantastic, right? Because you get accepted to YC, they give you 500K, they give you some investor connection, plus they give you your first like 10K users, right? And so they are good for funding, good for distribution as well. So it was pretty good, really good experience. But yeah, for now the team is pretty small. Is the two of us with Cyril plus two new team members that just joined us last month.
Very cool. Anything else that programmers need to know about you and using the tool? What should their first 10 minutes be? Trying something. What do they need to know about you that I
Well, I
haven't
think the
asked?
best,
Because
yeah,
I'm not a daily programmer. I don't program. So I worked at a
no,
programming magazine, but so I understand a little bit about what they do. But that's not my job every day to be in the code.
I mean, the best way is to, the best way is to experiment by yourself, right? Like go on marbleism.com and try to build a software with Marbleism. I want to manage expectation as well, that, sometimes you're going to ask something and it may not exactly does, what you ask. So it's still day one. We are a lot of things to build, right? And a lot of work ahead. So yeah, so bear with us, stay tuned. It's already good, but I think it's gonna become great in the coming month.
Very cool. It'll be fun watching what you do. And congrats on getting the kind of praise you have already gotten for your tool,
Thank you.
your service. Where do we learn more about it? And where do we learn more
Um,
about you?
yeah, so we are on X, right? Like Marbleism AI, and I'm on X as well, Ulric Musset. It's
So am I.
very
That's how I
funny.
found you. So, thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with me. This is a really interesting new company that you've built. So congratulations. And
Thank you for having me.
I'm looking forward to seeing what you do in the future.
Yeah, let's do it.